What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by Major League Success. I have Brittany Eddy with me. She's with Coldwell Banker Realty. Brittany, thank you so much. We've been I say social media friends for several years now, but really haven't had the opportunity to really connect and on a deeper level. So I'm looking forward to diving in and learning a little bit more about your journey into this business.
Indeed. Yeah. Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate the work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. So Brittany, I always start with the beginning. I want to start with growing up. What was life like? From childhood to going into high school. Right after high school years.
Yeah. So I actually was originally born in San Diego, California, believe it or not. People are always like, well, what brought you from San Diego to Columbus, Ohio, right? With winters and that sort of thing. But long story short, some family situations brought me to Columbus. I have a very big military family, so where they were always bouncing around anyhow. But so Columbus is still home. I've been here since I was about 6 years old. And grew up on the south side of Columbus, what is now known as Marion Village. So it's always interesting, especially being in real estate now, is seeing the transition of these neighborhoods, right? And you're like, that's not called Marion Village. That's the south side of Columbus, right? So grew up in that area, went to South High School, right? So I'm at Bulldog. And transition, went to Columbus State, and then went to and graduated from Ohio Dominican University.
Okay.
Here in Columbus. And so growing up, I mean, kids don't go outside these days, I guess, right? It's kind of what I think about. We went outside, we played hopscotch and double dutch and, jump rope and rode our bikes and did things that kids, we think are normal, right? Now everyone's just kind of stuck to their computer and games and that sort of thing. Nothing wrong with gamers, right? But that was me growing up.
Hey, in today's world, you can get a scholarship for video games now, right?
I mean, it's a big deal, right? So yeah, that was me growing up. We were outside.
No. Did you have any like entrepreneurship, growing up? Like, because obviously getting into real estate, and we'll get there, that's a different animal, right? And I'm always curious, did you do sports? Did you sell lemonade? Like,
I did. Yeah, I was that girl. So I sold gum, right? When I was in middle school, I would sell little sticks of gum. I did play tennis. I played tennis throughout high school. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Was always watching the Serenas, right, and the Venus and these sorts of folks. And so seeing her retire was kind of like, wait, am I getting old? Like, what's happening? So definitely played tennis, was on drill teams. I was a dancer and that sort of thing. Was always hanging around the football players. And so I understand the football culture, right? Because I grew up always. I hated cheerleading, though. I'll tell you that. My mom made me do like this little league cheerleading thing in middle school. And I was like, I don't ever want to do this.
Wasn't for you.
Yeah. But yes, I was one of the first kids in my high school to get a car. So I was like number 2, literally in the entire class. And so I remember taking my classmates, I'd like bribe them. I mean, back then gas was like, next to nothing, $1, right? So I'd say, $5, I'll take you guys to McDonald's, right? On our lunch break. So I remember I had a Geo Metro, like a little Geo Metro, and I'd pile like 6 people into this car and like charge them $5 each. So it would always pay for my McDonald's, my gas, and like I'd always have extra money. So yeah, I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I'd never really had anyone in my family per se own a business or grow up entrepreneurial. So they, naturally still to this day, some of them don't even know what I do. They're just like, I don't know. She's got flexibility, right?
Yeah. So going through high school, graduate, you said Columbus State and then ODU, right? What did you end up going for to college for?
I went to school for communication, so I was prepared to be this world-renowned BBC journalist, right? That was my track. I was ready to, reporting live from Kuwait, and this was what I was prepared to do. I actually dabbled in radio for a little while as well, and I was going to be a broadcaster. That's what I was set to do. After that, I actually, believe it or not, I went into, I had this interest and passion, still do to this day, full transparency, to go to law school, in which I did. So I went to Capital University Law School, and did about a year there. And that was actually my start before real estate. That's what I was doing before real estate. I was in law school in the day, or actually I was working at the law firm during the day and then going to law school, right? How crazy is that? In the evening. And so did that for about a year before I got into real estate. Yeah.
What made you want to first start with communications and the reporting side?
So I always felt that the media, right, and just our communication sources and outlets really control a lot about of how people think.
Yeah.
Really, it controls a lot of their day to day, and really wanted to be able to. I think we were in a transition and in a space, whereas now, I mean, I think a lot of people can attest to just really looking at the accuracy of news sources in where we're getting our information. And I wanted to be, I was studying like the Gutenberg press, right? I was studying like the heart of this is what news should be, right?
Yeah.
I was in that era though, where I was already starting to see the shift of social media and folks that were just automatically kind of doing their own thing. And I wanted to be a part of that original, accuracy of news and media sources. So
yeah. And then what made you ultimately switch to go into the law?
So I've always been an individual that was, or that has been, and still has a keen passion for just social justice issues and like these sorts of things. I especially around like economics and banking institutions that are discriminatory, and these like it just gets me all, I get all excited talking about it. I'm like, that bank should have been closed a long time ago, these sorts of things. So that was an area that I wanted to, that's a reason why I wanted to get into law. And one of the areas of practice that I was planning to practice was real estate and housing discriminatory laws, right?
Okay.
And so I didn't meet the threshold to go over into the second year of law school. And so Capital was kind of at a point where they're like, oh, you're like right there. I think you had to have like believe it or not, a 3.0 is not even a high threshold, right? We understand that. But in law school, it's a big deal, right? Because it's a completely different ball game. But I was like at like 2.9965 or something like that, right? And so anyway, Capital was at a point where they're like, well, you're right there. All you got to do is send a letter and petition, and we'll get you over into the second year. But I'm a very in-depth, in-tune person. Really always take a look at things happening for a reason. And so I sat down with myself. I remember that summer, and I said, there's some reason though that why I'm kind of being met with this, either send a letter, continue to law school, or kind of what do you really want to do right now in this season? And I was getting married. I mean, it was just a lot going on already. And I said, let's take a pause on this. And folks were asking me, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know. And someone, I still to this day, I wish I could find out who it was, but someone recommended real estate to me. And you should have seen me, honestly. At that point, I was like, real estate from law? I'm going to be an attorney. Like, why would I go into real estate? Sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did. It humbled me. It gave me an opportunity to really sit alongside of, in business. It's about relationships, right? I definitely understood business from a standpoint of math and numbers and calculations and logic and all those sorts of things. But it's at the heart of it. It's relationships, right? And so,
yeah. Well, in real estate, you get to do communications and law.
Yeah, I know, right? Blend it all together.
What made you really sit back at that age and make that decision of like, communications, maybe wasn't for you, law, was it really where your heart and passion was? Was there anything that really just was like, I should really think through this at this time?
Yeah, I think so. Finances has also been always a passion of mine. I feel like I took a look at a lot of I took a look at the financial kind of outcome of a lot of attorneys and colleagues that were around me and my friends. And I'm like, you're spending all this money student loan wise, right? And then a lot of them were not happy. I mean, they just weren't happy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what? Why am I here, right? Like, am I really here to just rack up a lot of student loan debt and then just to be mediocre in something that I'm doing every day, right? And that's no, I have a lot of, it's no disrespect. I have a lot of friends, great friends that are attorneys, and some of them are they are happy with what they're doing, but a lot of them are not, right? And so I just took a step back. I'm always like I said, I'm always I journal, right? That's not surprising coming from a communications background. I'm very much in tune with myself and self-confidence and kind of that sort of thing. And so I don't know. I'm grateful. I always tell people I'm grateful for a sound mind, right? And so I think that's what it was. It just took me back and said, do I really want to spend all this money right now and not really know if I want to do it?
No, I think that's awesome that you were able to kind of pick up on that and really think on it at that age. And I tell people all the time, real estate's all that I really know, and the flexibility and the lifestyle and what it's been able to give me. I always tell people, making $100,000 in real estate to me is probably making like, you'd probably have to make like 120, 130 in corporate world, because just being able to come and go, clock in, like all of that has a price to it.
Indeed.
Right. And you looking around seeing people that just weren't happy. They may be making good money or whatever, but it's a high stress, I'm sure it's high stress, long hours type of job. And ultimately, are you going to be happy?
Yep. And that, I mean, a lot of people talk about work-life balance, and I don't know. I mean, even that could be an interesting concept these days, right? But yeah, no, I think you're right. I think you're spot on. It's about truly a holistic lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I looked at.